YouTube says I have 18 seconds to get your attention. So there's a new survey out that says we all spend 13 hours a day on social media and TV. Can that be true? It also says that breaking news is dead, but we may have a different opinion on that. I'm Mike.
And I'm Chuck. We are former award-winning local TV news directors, and our focus is local TV news. The breaking news on breaking news coming up.
Welcome to Newsroom Confidential. The good old days of local TV news are gone, but what is the future? Get insights from your hosts, two highly experienced and award-winning news guys.
Here are today's hot topics. Are viewers really maxed out? Does breaking news really mean anything anymore? Get this, being trustworthy doesn't seem to mean anything either. Big media brands are losing out. We'll tell you why. And local television news isn't dead. At least, not yet. Those topics and a lot more, so keep watching.
Okay, let's go. We're talking about a survey done by the Maggot Research Company, and it's called, strangely enough, the Omni Media Landscape, Mapping Reach, Affinity, and the Future of Media Monetization. Okay, does that make any sense? No, it does not.
That's a long title.
Coming from a company that teaches people how to write and tell news stories. But anyway, so our conversation here is about how it all affects local news, because that's what Chuck and I spend our time in, local news. So the first question or issue we want to look at here, it says that viewers are maxed out. Are you consuming 13 hours of media a day? Chuck, does that make any sense?
Well, it does seem like a lot, 13 hours a day for any one person. Whoa. But I do get the idea that, there's so much out there on so many platforms. It's like a tyranny of choice. I think, we have so much out there. But I think, what local news needs to do is be able to cut through the clutter, to reach through all that and reach people with local news, local information.
Yeah, it doesn't break down, or if it does, I didn't see it, how much of that is television and how much is social media. I assume most of it's social media. But and I may need an explanation on this, because if there are 24 hours in the day, okay, you're 13 hours you're using social media, doom scrolling, doing whatever, and watching TV. That leaves you only 11 hours for work, your commute to work, for lunch, dinner, and anything you want to do with your family. Yeah, it's like, hey, family, I got 5 minutes for you. What do you have to say? I'm going to bed. Get my 8 hours in. I got to make the math work. I don't know. That seems kind of strange to me. But
and it does seem to me that, when, say, for instance, in history, when there are times of moral confusion, people are looking for moral clarity. I think this is about the same kind of thing. They're so confused about what's out there, and they're looking for somebody to lead the way, somebody they can trust, and someone who has their like values, maybe, who can explain to them what's going on in the world, who's somebody they can trust.
Okay, we'll go with that. Now it says the breaking news theme is worn out. Instead, viewers want context and understanding. Okay, Jamie Spencer, who did the report at Maggot, says, the idea that you can compete and make your definition around the idea that you will have news before any of the other 50,000 brands out there doesn't hold water. And he goes on to say the audiences now prefer context, explanation, insight, and emotional reassurance. Chuck?
Well, the last 20 or 30 years, news has been on this 24-hour news cycle. And the term breaking news has been overused a lot. And it's like, the audience is so fragmented that, the cable news networks or even local TV tries to draw them back together for the breaking news story, to pull them back together for a big audience. And then it goes away again. So they're constantly trying to bring that audience together and for a high rating point. So when they use that breaking news term over and over and over again, we become numb to it after a while. And but I disagree on the point that, if there's local news, somebody on YouTube or somebody, a loner out there, is not going to be able to go to that breaking news story like a local TV station and cover it, get the details, interview the officials, tell me what's going on in my community. Is it safe to go outside? Is there somebody on the loose? Or, so the, the, we've got to get back to making sure we can deliver that in local news and making sure we're the one who can promise and trust local news coverage.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that national news has burned everyone out on breaking news as well, and it doesn't mean anything at all. Now, is breaking news still a thing? Yes, it is a thing,
Yes.
right? If you have a wildfire or a flood or name the weather disaster or an explosion or whatever the big story could be, breaking news is important. But I think news media would be well served not to use the term, but I don't think any encouragement that I could make would have any impact on any news organization to stop saying breaking news every 5 minutes.
Chances are, we talked about earlier, people are consuming news all the time. When I hear breaking news and they tell me what it is, most of the time I'm like, oh, I saw that hours ago. So their definition of breaking news nationally is way different from local.
Yeah, I think, even to say, we have a big story here and here's what's new. Here's what's new would be far more valuable.
Here's the latest.
And to update. Right, and to have an active update desk. I mean, you and I have run many newsrooms. We know how we would do it if we were running the national people. When you look at CNN or Fox News or MS Now or whatever, they're terrible at breaking news. They can't cover it. When you recently saw it at the correspondence dinner, where you had that lunatic run in through the magnetometer, explain that, but they were completely unable to cover that story. If you wanted information on that story, I went to X, and just average people were pulling out more information. They had the guy's name, the guy's picture. They had everything far before the networks did. And it was
before I saw really any meaningful details on what was going on. I finally went to bed and just got up the next morning, and there still wasn't that much,
Well, your problem too is that when you go surfing for breaking news, a lot of it is not true.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
I mean, and we've covered news. That's what I always tell. Well, I've told my wife 100 times. They don't know what's going on. You're just staying on because you have to. If you go off, people are going to go to the other station here on a local news basis. But it's often, and I think viewers have figured it out, but they'll still hang around and watch. The facts are slow in coming, oftentimes.
Yeah,
and police departments, generally speaking, some are very good. I've occasionally seen some police chiefs come out early and say what's going on, but that's not the norm anymore. Police chiefs pretty much now, we'll have a news conference in 3 hours, but people want to know right now what the heck happened. And so that's why people go searching, and there's a disconnect because, and it's not necessarily the media, it's local officials who are slow and anti-media in the sense that they don't need to know until we want to tell them, when in fact, I think people have a right to find out from local officials as quickly as possible what they know and what they can say. You don't have to come out and give harsh details about, there may be a body count involved in the story, but you should come out and say what you know at this time.
Yeah.
And boy, do I have a beef with local law enforcement in many of the communities I've worked in, it being completely unwilling and unable, and public officials as well, the mayor or the governor, to allow information to come out. And that's where you'll go to X and you'll have just average people pumping up, putting up pictures and videos and names. And I know this guy. And then you have all these would-be investigative reporters out there, right? Well, I'm going to find out about this. And it's amazing what people can dig up in a New York Minute. And your news people who are supposed to be providing me with this information are not doing that. So people will go where the information flow is as opposed to where it's not.
Yeah, we spend so
there we go,
time,
breaking news.
I think with this information assault on people, we play the role of creating clarity. I always say, look, get on TV. We're going to create some clarity here because the rumors are running crazy and people are calling us, wondering what's going on. And, I remember during COVID when that first started, the local health officials where I was news director said, we're not going to have a lot of press conferences. We're not going to release a lot of information. We're just going to keep the lid on this. And I said, no, wait a minute. You've got to do this every day. You've got to come out with information. This is something, people are dying left and right, and they're so unsure about everything, and there's so much bad information out there. And they really, I got to hand it to them. They stepped up. They started having daily news conferences about 11 o'clock every day, and we carried them live every day. I mean, it was the best thing that ever happened, and we never got a complaint. I'm missing my soap opera. No, we never got a complaint. We carried those live, and we had the information. We'd recap it in our noon show, and that's the way you do it. You've got to be the person who pulls the good information together and say, here's what's true, here's what's not true. You've got to create that clarity.
Well, bringing up COVID, that could be a whole show that we could do on how the
Yes.
media failed during the COVID
Yes.
pandemic.
Yes.
That's a big thing. Anyway, not well, did not do good. All right, now number 3, being trustworthy has lost meaning. Consumers are looking for a confirmation of their existing beliefs. Consumers now define trust primarily as a confirmation of their existing consisting worldview combined with content that helps them feel calmer and more confident about the world around them. So I guess that means that trustworthy only means if you share my views of the world. And that's a tough place for an independent media to be, I think.
Yeah, I think people watch local news after they've watched, say, Fox or MSNBC, and they get mad because they see other viewpoints, and they call us and say, why are you putting that person on the air? And I've talked to so many people off the ledge, say, look, who do you watch every day? And I find out, and I go, look, you're going there for affirmation, not information. You're going there for something to affirm your current beliefs. You're not open to other viewpoints. So when you see our newscast, we're not like Fox or MSNBC. And I think that's where we failed as journalists. We have not promoted that or shared that that's our role, that we are to share multiple viewpoints so you can make up your own mind. You can make up do you want to vote against somebody or for somebody? You want to go protest, write your congressman? That's up to you. It's not our job to act on it. It's your job as a citizen to act on information. So we're just supposed to provide it. So much of what we do has been, the vital role we play in all that has been lost because we don't tell people that enough. So again, a lot of people get mad at us and don't watch, and we don't get that chance to connect. I'm grateful for the ones that used to call in and complain. I'd talk to them and say, no, here's what we do.
Well, what's interesting is that one of the themes here is that if you're a TV station or a news organization, do not use the word trust. Do not say we are trustworthy, because people do not believe that. I think a better term would be we are as independent as we can be. We try to sort it out as best we can. That would be a better promotion approach than to say we're the ones to trust. Because people don't buy that at all anymore because, well, we are so politicized, so people have their own views and, they don't trust you.
That's a great point.
Number 4 is related to number 3 that we just gave. Individual creators, here's what it says, individual creators are competing against large news organizations. People brands are stronger than corporate media. Light brands like Good Morning America and The Today Show are fading in interest. So that's very interesting. So here's the list of the personal brands that rank at the top, and they're all political for the most part, at least in my opinion. Chuck, if you have the list in front of you, it's Brian Tyler Cohen ranks number 1. He's a left-wing commentator. Then it has NPR, National Public Radio, which I find incredibly bizarre and strange because really nobody listens to NPR. I was an intern there years ago. I like NPR. I started my career there as a college kid, but ProPublica they like. I don't know, but they're not out there that much. They do investigative reporting, mostly on the left, actually.
Yep, they do share
Dan Bongino
information with local people.
Yeah. Dan Bongino on the right, Glenn Beck on the right. PBS NewsHour, are you kidding me? Nobody watches that. I've seen the ratings. They are an asterisk. Associated Press, okay, Associated Press is kind of, middle of the road.
Fair standard.
Your local
nonprofit.
Yeah. Anyway, so I jumped down to number 17 is local TV news when it comes to the brand that you trust. So obviously it's mostly political and a mishmash until you get way down to local news, which I'm not sure how people view local news now. Never did any research on that specifically, even though Maggot, they worked with me at a number of stations. What's your take on that?
Well, I get there's a lot of niche uh, social media out there that cover certain things like those folks. But, it's like I used to battle people about, well, why don't you do stories like Fox News does or MSNBC? And I said, you got to remember, they just talk about the news. They don't go cover it. For the most part, they don't go. They just, most of their time is spent talking about the news. It's easy to just talk about the news. It's a lot harder to put boots on the ground, have a staff, newsroom staff with equipment and cameras and cars and pay your staff and pay them benefits and you have a retirement program for a huge staff or even a small staff to get boots on the ground. And on top of that, to have local salespeople selling that product, to make it such a good product that its salespeople can go sell it and make money, be the fuel for the engine that supplies those journalists what they need to go cover the news. So, I just find it hard to believe that local news, we got to persevere. We got to pull it back and make sure it's the best product it can be instead of continue to minimize it and cut it and out and strip away its muscle. We got to flex our muscle. We got to be a local TV news organization that again, it's boots on the ground. These YouTube folks, these social media folks, rarely are boots on the ground. Rarely are they interacting with local people in local communities in small towns, going to the city councils, going to go challenge the powers that be, like police chief or a county sheriff they're not doing that. They're not being a voice for the voiceless to the other end of the spectrum. They're not going to the communities that need help, who may need an advocate, a poor person, someone who needs help with navigating life. They're not doing that. And local TV news should have the heart to go out and do that. Local reporters have that sensitivity in their local communities. Find out what's going on by that, engaging with the communities, going to church, going to local businesses. And, so that's what it's all about is getting that local boots on the ground connection with reporters, with salespeople. It's a local business. And that's why it's not too late to monetize all that. I mean, they're still making money, as the study said, and TV is still the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And they need to stay that. They need to save that. So we stay profitable and we invest in it, not strip away from it.
All good points. And to the poll itself, I think what they've run into is a clash of perception,
Yeah,
right? When you're talking about
point.
what brand you like,
Yeah.
well, you've got the hardcore political, and then you've got like local news, which is where we came from.
Yeah.
They're completely different
Oh,
things,
completely
right?
different. Yes.
And people are saying, well, this is what I like, but the survey should just be what kind of political people do you like, and then who do you like for news when it happens? What you need to know when the big story breaks, or what's happening with your city council, the state tax, legislature, if they're going to pass a new tax of some sort that's going to affect you directly. So people are confused, and having been through many research projects as you have over the years, it was always interesting to me how people really could not articulate what they wanted, what they liked, what they were looking for, but they knew it. They would watch a specific station, and if, in my case, my newsrooms, we always did a better job than the other guys, so our ratings always went up. So we could define that to ourselves, but our viewers oftentimes couldn't. But when it came to switching the channel around, they were able to find the station that was doing the best job, which was usually mine, but they couldn't articulate it, all that often, unless you had a couple of standout people who were kind of, unique.
And again,
right?
that is a huge marketing challenge, I think, for journalists. I think most people get what we do, but like I said many times, most people don't understand how difficult our jobs are. The passion we have for journalism and its role of the democracy, and they just don't get that because they're not journalists. I get it, but at the same time, we have to let them know how valuable that is, so it's not minimized, so it's not taken away, so it's not suppressed. Because once you start suppressing journalism, that's when your society, look at history, it's when it starts going downhill.
That is correct. And that takes us, Chuck, to number 5, which is, a quick apology to the Maggot folks. This survey is so involved and complex and deep that we're just pulling some of our perceived highlights out of it. So, Jamie, if you're watching this, it's, you did a great job with it, but
Yeah.
we can't cover it all. That would be, it'd be a week-long
I
series.
think it's a
We,
good wake up call for us to look at this study and go, well, what can we learn from it? How can we strengthen TV
right,
news with these points that they've dug up?
right. Okay, number 5 is TV isn't dead. It's still a strong force, but it lacks the innovation to stay relevant. And okay, there's another hour for us to talk about. It says local news is seen as essential, but that perception does not translate into stronger engagement, viewing, or trust. So we were talking about this before we
Yeah.
went on the air, so to speak, even though we're not on the air. We don't even know if anybody's watching, as a matter of fact. But the fact is, people want us there as local newscasters,
Yes.
but they aren't driven to tune in every day, right? It's kind of like, yeah, I want you there when I want you, but on other days, yeah,
Right.
not so much.
It's a cheap product. If you look at most markets around the country, they're all owned by these big corporations for the most part. And they've slowly been whittled away, especially since the Great Recession. We've crushed salaries and we nitpicked away. And so a lot of the good people who were in the business before like 2008, 2009 became casualties of the business. And many people who entered it with idealistic goals and wanted TV news to be great gave up because bad management, bad companies, bad pay. They decided, hey, I'm out of here, And so we've got this cheap product. And when you look at it, it's run by a bunch of kids without sources, without tenure. You have no senior journalists for the most part. So you look at it and you look, why would I consume a product that's put together as cheaply as possible? And that's what it comes down to. Local, these companies, anyone that owns a TV newsroom should invest and feel the pride of what that investment should bring, which is great journalism, great investment in the community, to do what journalists do, reveal information, hold the powerful accountable, be a voice for the voiceless, all those idealistic things that make our democracy so good. So they've got to look at the greater good. I mean, we're not looking at the greater good. We're looking at Wall Street, the next quarter. Oh, well, we got to make the next quarter, so let's cut some more. And that means no big raises, no good raises, maybe 1%. So who's going to hang around in that business and get 1% raises every year or no raise? And, all they got to do is blame Wall Street. Well, I've had a bad month on Wall Street, so, no raise this month. They're not as big as one as we hoped for. So it's very discouraging.
Well, to your point, it also now fits in with the concept of consolidation. And we recently spoke about Nexstar's
Yes.
purchase of Tegna, another 60 stations. And Nexstar's main public relations push is it's all about journalism and improving journalism.
And expanding news. But as we've talked,
and expanding news.
that doesn't mean
and
quality of news. It just means more hours of news to put commercials in. And as we've discussed, the challenge for Nexstar is our staff, our reporters to fill those hours of news so it's quality and pay them so they stay, so they invest in the community, hang around.
Well, the problem is quantity over quality.
Yes.
And when Nexstar talks about, I mean, they're great business people. Don't get me wrong. I'll give them
They
credit
know
for
how
that.
to run a business.
But when they say it's all about local journalism, I would say insert laugh track here because it is not. I mean, that sounds good to the public and that sounds good with your FCC application, but it absolutely is not true. And if we could get somebody from Nexstar on, I would love to have them on and talk to us because I have a whole bunch of questions as a journalist that I don't think they could or would want to give a straight answer.
Well,
on.
and
Anyway,
their shareholders that they want to increase rates for retransmission, which is 50% of their revenue, and then make synergies, between these mergers. So they will probably, that means to me, they're going to lay people off.
Interestingly, it's going to be tied up in court now for I don't know how long, but the breaking news on that, we have breaking news. Well, it's from a couple days ago, but if I'm at Fox News, that would still be breaking news. 5 more attorneys general have joined the lawsuit, and these are from Republican states, Republicans, and so they joined the 8 Democrat attorneys general who have launched the lawsuit along with a number of other media outlets who have no interest in seeing Nexstar growing. So anyway, then just to recap, the bottom line was when it comes to brands that are in your community, the local newspaper is number one, then it starts with local TV stations. So
we can't lose that.
The bottom, right. But a bottom line quote here is, but being essential has little impact on key outcomes, which means viewership or readership, right? people want you there, but when they want them.
Yeah.
Here's another quick headline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just
Let
going
me
to
go
say,
on.
when local weather is a great example. I mean, when there's a tornado bearing down on your town, you're not
Yeah.
going to open up
Oh,
YouTube
yeah.
or the newspaper. You're gonna turn on the TV station because that's going to save your life.
Yes, you are. Now, number 6, a smaller thing, consumers are using AI platforms for news and information. It says 51% say they use AI for news on a weekly basis. I don't know. I mean, AI is growing exponentially, right? I mean, it is huge, but a recent survey I saw said only 20% of people are using AI, right? But that's a big number. So I don't know. Um, uh, okay, I would just have to question that number, but obviously rapid adoption is happening with AI, no question about it.
Yeah, I don't know how. I see how news organizations are using it. Maybe to condense copy to summarize a PDF that came in, and you still have to look at it and wonder if you should trust how AI does things. And as far as consumers out there, you know, as a journalist, I've just kind of stayed away from a lot of AI stuff. But as far as AI in the newsroom, what scares me is I don't know what corporations think AI can do. And I think it's because they maybe don't understand journalists. I think, well, AI can summarize a piece of copy and put it on the computer. Maybe they can. But at the same time, again, it's not boots on the ground like we've talked about before. The worrying thing about me is AI has no concept of ethics. When it comes to ethics, um, ethics are based on good morals, common decency, and common sense. Three things that some people have, some people don't. And it's important in a newsroom that you huddle up and combine your efforts to make ethical decisions because you want diversity in the room and all that. But a computer doesn't have good morals, common decency, or common sense. How are they going to make ethical decisions about what should be the top story on a website or on a podcast or whatever? I don't know. It will be interesting to see how corporations insist that newsrooms use AI, especially when they say to start cutting bodies.
Well, I think right now it's being used just for body efficiency.
Yes,
I think there are great opportunities for making sharing with social media, uh, that it could do an awful lot of that and take the busy work out
it
of it.
does.
It could do rewrites of stories that then would have to
Yes,
be reviewed, and that would save me a lot of
that's how I
time.
see newsrooms
Uh,
using it.
right, I used to be a reporter, and I do, in the olden days, a package for the
Yep.
early news. Then I do what we call a VOSOT for 10 or 11. I always hated that because now I got to sit down and do that, write something
Sure.
else. But if I
Yep.
could use AI, which now you certainly could, to take that story, kind of
Yep.
synthesize it down for a quicker read for the late news, and then actually even take the video and edit the video to it, which I think that will be
There's
doable.
still a human
Um,
involved in all that.
yeah,
Overseeing.
there's got to be a human,
Yes.
and as we've talked before, you still need a human to
Yes.
go out there and cover the story. I cannot send well, maybe we
Okay.
send a
Or
robot
it's
out
there,
someday. Right. But so you still have that issue of people are still needed. Some former news directors just wrote an article about AI and companies that are using it to develop products for local newsrooms. And it was fundamentally like, well, not really there yet. It's an experiment,
Smart.
and and the companies were at least acknowledging that a human needed to be involved in the process because journalists were insisting that, which they certainly should. But there's an indication that we're still in the early days of the internet here, right? It's like 1995 is where we are, with AI, but it's going to move a lot faster than the internet ever did, right? Adoption's going to be, well, it is. It's a rocket ship,
Yeah.
and it's changing every day. There's always some new story every day, new headline about Claude can do this and can do that. And, you had ChatGPT 5.5 and boy, it's incredible. And nobody expected this. And then you've got that other story that came out that AI was able to hack all kinds of
Yes.
secure websites and web platforms.
And destroy
And they wouldn't even
information.
share it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't even share this update with the public because it's too dangerous for the public to have it.
Yep.
So as I try to, be the clarion person about if you think there's not going to be a power outage someday that isn't hacked, the power companies aren't hacked by AI, you are dreaming, man, because it's coming. It's just a question of when. Ted Koppel did a book 10 years ago called Lights Out about the grid being hacked. Okay, well, now it can be hacked by some kid, living in his mom's basement.
Yes.
So good luck, America. Here we go.
We
Okay,
have to
now,
keep an eye on that.
that's, I digress. Okay, now number 7. This is the last point, and this kind of fits in with pretty much everything we've talked about. But this was really fascinating to me, and it's hard to kind of sort out. So we're going to give it a shot. And it is community no longer means where you live, right? To me, I grew up in a small town. Where'd you grow up? Small
Small
town?
town,
Big town?
1,100 people.
Small town.
Yep.
That was my town. My town's always been 8,000 people. It's never grown. It's never shrunk. I don't know. It says on the sign, 8,000. Community no longer means where you live. It means your interests, social groups, politics, and culture. Now that is fascinating to me. That there's more of a deep dive needs to
Sure.
go into this one. So people are saying when they're asked, I don't think of my community as my neighborhood, the people around me, the local grocery store, my mayor, my county commissioner, right, the local fire department. They think of community as their mindset, their political beliefs, what they like to do culturally, who they hang out with, that sort of thing, which would be a completely different change than if you did ask these questions back in the, say, the 60s or the 70s. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it is, we are so divisive right now. And it's sure started with politics and the argument culture and all that. And now it seems to be everybody's afraid to really speak their mind. At least good and decent people. They don't want to get in an argument with somebody in a public forum. I mean, they'll do it on social media as a troll. I hate that people think they can go on social media and just be this awful person and say awful things to awful people. And so all that's just led to people in person being a little more cautious about what they say. And so we're not as freely speaking as we used to be. So, we kind of not evolve, but devolve into little groups that, well, I'm going to stick with my little group here and I'm not going to venture out. I'm not going to become part of my community. I'm going to just keep the doors shut and stay home. And boy, the greater good is just not there. It's you need to get out in the community and volunteer, give, support, vote, maybe go protest, write your congressman, care about stuff. So those groups, I see that happening. But we've always had hobbies and interests, in the community. We should, where we can get together, where let's, somebody want a crochet knitting group or somebody in a hiking club that wants to clean up the local river. I mean, you still got to do those things, and maybe social media helps propel that. That's what we hope it would do. Instead of making people devolving into these small groups, maybe it can help them evolve, use it in a good way. Because everything comes along and people go, oh, it's so bad for you. They said that about TV when I was a kid. Oh no, TV's going to rot your brain. Well, there were 3 channels. Well, they said that about the internet, and they said that about everything that comes along. But you can do everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. You've got to take the good. I mean, you can't throw out all books because one book is bad. So you've got to look at social media and the communities, these psycho groups. I think that's what they call them. Let's look at the good that can come from that, not just look at the bad that could come from that.
Well, I was fascinated by this one more than anything else. And there are a lot of layers to it. This could be a 2-hour show all by itself. How have we become divided? But they're just simple issues of, like, if you look at how neighborhoods are now being built, right?
Yep.
And a big societal change happened years ago when neighborhoods were being built with no front porches, where people now live in their houses in the back and don't even know their neighbors anymore, right? I grew up on a street where we had a front porch and I knew everybody.
Yeah, we did too.
We knew
Yep.
everybody. We also didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. We played outside, and it was a life of hard knocks, I guess,
Yeah,
the way
it was.
we had to do
It
it.
was. We
But
survived.
you look at these,
No back outlet.
you look at
Yeah.
these, to pick up the point, society has just changed so much, how we live, how we communicate. Everybody's kind of living in their own hive. I think that's a big factor. And to my point of how neighborhoods are, nobody knows their neighbors like they used to. And since going back to the first thing we talked about, that people are spending 13 hours a day on social media. Well, I have no time for my neighbors or my friends
Wow. Yeah.
because I'm doom scrolling, and I've got another 2 hours of doom scrolling to do to see what I'm not gonna remember after I see it. So
Well, I hope people
yeah, the
will see this and
community thing's
realize
crazy.
I am doom scrolling too much. Maybe I do need to check myself. Again, everything in moderation.
All right, well, we wrap up. We're former TV news guys. We still like TV news, even though we have our opinions on it. We think it's very valuable. But it's interesting to see from this survey that people are losing their sense of community, which also affects news and information, I think, right?
I think it does.
Am I going to watch local news if I don't care about anything, right?
Local
If the most
TV can
important
bring us
thing
back together every day at 6 o'clock
Correct.
if it's a good
Right.
product to watch.
Right, right. So if there's something there, but again, to recap the recap, people are saying local news is important, but yeah, I don't have to watch it really unless I really need it. Like you had referenced, they got a tornado bearing down on us in the Midwest. Then your local news station and that expensive radar they bought is very, very important. So there we are. So that wraps it up. Newsroom Confidential. And if you have any comments, please leave them. Like and subscribe, as they say. And congratulations to you if you made it to the very end of this show.
Thanks for hanging in.
Because this is kind of an experiment on our part and our opinions. And we think our opinions are important. You may not, but there you go. That wraps it up for Newsroom Confidential. I'm Mike.
I'm Chuck.
And we hope to see you next time.
You've just watched Newsroom Confidential. If you liked what you saw, please feel free to comment, give us a like, and subscribe. We're just getting started.